Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone. In the last few lectures, we have seen that how we can formulate recurrence equations and what are the methodology that we could use to solve those recurrence equations in practice. However, there are many times we use these recursions in helping us to solve a problem and analyze it, so that we could also see that which kind of recurrence or which kind of recurrent formulation for the solutions of the problem will give us the best results. Divide and conquer recurrence are one of the prime examples of applying those recurrence relations and analysis into problem solving domain. As the name suggests, we will see in this lecture and in the next lecture that how we could take up a problem, how we could split or divide the problem into smaller instances of the problem, and how we could combine the answers from those sub-problems and get back to produce the final result. And we will see that how our recurrence relation and the concepts that we learned in recurrence relations help or aid us in devising suitable or best possible solutions to the recurrent problems in our hand. So to begin with, recurrent problem solving the divide and conquer way suggests that we will solve sub-problems of the problem first and then combine those up to get the final answer. So obviously when we say we will go into sub-instances of the problem, so there will be some base instances of the problem which we call as base cases. Those instances are very lesser size problem, maybe 1 unit of the problem or 2 units of the problem, which we assume to be that it can be solved in constant time. That is, given the question and those smaller units, you could immediately get an answer to it. So these are our base cases up till which we will try to produce the sub-problems of the problem in a recurrent way. Then one of the primary steps of such kind of problem solving is, obviously when we also try to solve bigger problems, we try to narrow down the problems into a set of sub-problems. So suppose a bigger problem, we can break it down into m sub-problems, each has ni instances. Remember that this sub-problem decomposition is very tricky, and depending on these decompositions, your solution complexity or how good you are doing the solution will also differ. Now when you decompose a problem into sub-problem, next thing comes that those sub-problems can be uniquely solved as we solve the original problem. So they are called recursive way of solving problems. So you try to solve those sub-problems recursively in the same manner. So recursively means that you again decompose, again call the recursive routine, again decompose, again call the recursive routine until you hit upon very small instances of the problem, which is known as the base cases. And finally, from that step, we try to compose the solutions that are produced. So base cases will produce the unit level solutions, which when just the previous recursive call finishes, that solutions will come back and you compose it and grow up. So therefore, you decompose a problem, and suppose decomposing n instance of the problem will take dn steps, and finally recomposing your decomposed m sub-problems also take rn steps to get back the solution for n problem, and the rest is the same number of steps taken for each of the sub-problems ni. So let's say tn be the total number of steps taken to compute or solve the overall problem. Then since we decompose using dn, so it is the number of steps or stages to decompose plus the number of stages recursively to compute each of the sub-problem solutions plus the number of stages to recompose and get back the final answer. So hence, we will see that these are the instances which are more than the number of unit instances. And obviously, if we get back in the unit instance or less, we produce the answer as a direct solution to the problem. So pictorially, what we do is that we break down a problem into sub-problems, and each of this circle is a recursive call to lower level sub-problems. And when we hit upon the base case, we try to compose the solutions from each. So at this level, it is the dn is the decomposition time to break into, and you call these subproblems recursively. And then when it finishes the answer, then all these m answers come back to this point and you give the result. So this time is the recomposition time. So your recurrence will obviously be in terms of this format. So primarily the question that we are trying to address in this and next lecture would be that how formulation of a recurrence and their solution depends on where do we split the problem, how do we combine or compose it and get back the final answer. You can easily understand that it will depend the way in which we split, the way we decompose and the way we recompose. This everything will depend how good or bad we are solving the final problem. So therefore, in the series of next few slides, I will first go on through a set of examples, primarily from the algorithm domain, where we use recurrent problem solving in the divide and conquer way to a very large extent, and try to first highlight that why such kind of recurrent solving and a little bit of procedures to solve that is meaningful or helpful in order to understand this divide and conquer recurrences. Then possibly in the next lecture, we will try to use whatever we learned from this set of examples and try to combine the generalized formula or theorems for deriving such divide and conquer recurrence. Let us start with our first example. So how do we find maximum among n elements given in a set? So therefore, the base or the fundamental point is that if you are given one element, you just return the maximum. Your decomposition is that you split the elements into two parts. I will see that how, if my splitting of different parts, if I change, what is the change in the final number of steps, or here in this case the number of comparisons that I get. How the recurrence give me that answer to understand that how good or bad I am doing. So first I will split it into two equal parts, find maximum from both parts, and then compare those two part maximum to get the largest. So this is a recurrence or recursive problem solving way, because I am splitting it, I am finding the same thing again and again over the subparts, and then composing or finding the maximum among the answers. So therefore you can easily understand the recurrence would be that the number of comparisons that I make for n elements, among n elements to find the maximum is, I split into n by 2 parts equally. So therefore, I have to find maximum in two different parts. So 2 into this amount of comparisons from each part, plus the final comparison between the maximum chosen from those two parts to get my final maximum. Here you see the steps for decomposition does not involve any comparison. So dn is 0 in this case. Steps for recomposition involves a comparison to find the maximum between those two maximums. So recomposition is 1 and the splitting is uniform of n by 2 size and 2 instances. So this is the recurrence as per my previous form. And I know that in the base case, when I reach up to a point where there is only one element, I just return that without comparing anything. So my number of comparisons there is 0. So if I could solve this formula or this recurrence, I will get to know that this strategy 1.1 to find the maximum, how it is doing. So it's a very straightforward. If we unfold this one step after another, we will get to the solution that, let's say there exists an k. So all of these we will do for large n. Therefore that k would be, we are approximate that k as n equal to 2 to the power k. So let us unfold this one. So this will be again unfolded as 2tn by 4 plus 1, which means it is 2 square t1 n by 4 plus that 1 into 2, that is 2, and this one is 1. Again this step is unfolded as 2 cube tn by 2 cube plus 2 square plus 2 plus 1. So the generically final formula, it will be unfolded till this point, which means that this quantity reaches 1 because I have assumed for a large n there is an existence of k such that this happens. So this quantity becomes 0. So it is a sum of 2 to the power k minus 1 down to 2 to the power 0, which is obviously 2 to the power k minus 1. And I have assumed n equal to 2 to the power k, so this is n minus 1. What does it suggest? That Depending on this kind of recursive problem solving by my own strategy number 1.1, I am getting n minus 1 comparisons to find the maximum. Now see, obviously, I can also change this thing because the split, I split it in the middle. I could have a different partition or division and a different way of recomposition and decomposition. That will give the change in the recurrence relation. So let us see. So see here, the main fundamental, our goal is that before we implement or before we go for deployment of our solution, I am using the knowledge of my recurrence relation and formalism to see which is the best way to solve the problem. Second way, what I will do, instead of splitting in the middle, why not I split one element and the rest n minus 1 element. So again, my one element answer is the base case. So there is no comparison involved there. Otherwise, I decompose into every time one element and n minus 1. Again, 1 and n minus 2. In this way, I go on decomposing. I select the maximum among both parts and then compare the maximum to find the largest as usual. Here you see the recurrence, that is T2n. The second recurrence gives us that my decomposition or splitting is 1 and n minus 1 instances, and I am calling it again to solve those. Plus what else is give is that the recomposition time is 1, that is also remain here. Splitting time does not involve any comparison, so that is not included. So since we are only considering here the number of comparisons, if you are to consider the number of computation steps, then everything will be added up here. The splitting will also one step, so that will also be added. But I am just simplifying it with the number of comparisons. And again, for n equal to 1, you can easily see that there is no comparison. So now you can place this one as 0 because you know T21 is 0. So this is basically T2n minus 1 plus 1. Again, you know that how to unfold it. So this is T2n minus 1 plus 1. So again, this will be T2n minus 2 plus 1 will be 2. N minus 3 plus 3, so on. So it will reach again to n minus 1. So therefore, it reveals that my divide and conquer strategy, even if it get a little modified, the previous attempt and this attempt does not change the number of comparisons to find the maximum. Let us see another variant of the strategy. Instead of splitting it to one element, I split it 2 elements and the rest n minus 2. Why I am just changing it from 1 to 2? Because see, my base case has one element give me no comparison, but 2 element give me one comparison. There will be slight change in the recurrence as well. So instead of 1 and n minus 1 partition, here I have 2 and n minus 2 partition. And let's see, we are doing the rest of the recursive calls and the recomposition similarly. So the recurrence here is T2 plus Tn minus 2 plus 1 is the final recomposition time for n greater than 2. What if you reach at a base case where n equal to 2, then your comparison is only once to get the maximum, so that is 1. But in this way, since you are reducing by 2, if you start with a odd number, you will reach to 1 sometime, then your comparison is 0. So let us solve this recurrence by expanding. Here also you can see that T32 is basically 1 because T32 is nothing but n equal to 2 is the same problem, which is 1. So if we solve this recurrence, we get that my T3n is equal to this one is this plus 2 as I predicted because this is 1. That means Tn minus 4 plus 4, Tn minus 6 plus 6. That's why if I reach to 2, which means Tn minus n minus 2. This will be also n minus 2. Now if n is even, this results as 1. If n is odd, then from T3, I can go to 1 and then stop. So in both the cases, if it is even, if it is odd, you will see that there is no change in the number of comparisons. Then we use similar or equal sized parts, or we may be using 1 and n minus 1 size parts. So we are now more or less convinced by a different type of divide and conquer that maybe that this is the best we can get. Now only one particular part remains, is an arbitrary partition. We started off with 1 and n minus 1, 2 and n minus 2. Let's say we have a arbitrary length partition which is c elements in one side and n minus c elements in the other side. And for such kind of an arbitrary partition, our recurrence will be that we have C elements and n minus C elements, and this C is basically constant. The base condition can be formed in two ways. Either you can say that I have one element as 0, or you can say whatever be the element C or less than that, I will take exactly that many number of times to compare. So here I simplified it by 1. What I will try to show here that what does this recurrence relation lead us to in analysis. So because C is arbitrarily choice of a constant, so to analyze this, we need to take an average due to the expected choice of C. So we see that C can be 1 up to n minus 1 and every position is equally likely. We are not biasing it. So therefore, if we try to suitably find how many number of comparisons happen for a particular choice of C, we average all n minus 1 possibilities of C, which is basically C equal to 1 to C equal to n minus 1, this formula. So I see here, I say one side partition is 1 and n minus 1, then I took 2 and n minus 2, all of them I added and I just have an average. So this will give me an expected value of this particular comparison. Now this simplified over here by n minus 1 multiplied in both sides. So this will be this. Now see, the trick here is that I need to solve the recurrence and find out this term T4n. I replace n with n minus 1, I get this one. I replace n with n minus 1, this n minus 1, this n minus 1, n minus 2, this n minus 1, n minus 2. Now I will subtract the first one from the second. This first one minus this one. So this will give me this. Apart from this side will be 1. This term is n plus 1th term is in the first is more, 2 into that. So it will just give me this. If you have simplified this, there are 2 Tn depends on Tn minus 1 and simplify. So what I did is here is that I divide everything by n. So if you put this term here, you will get here as n into T4n minus 1. So you divide by n into n minus 1, you will get this, which looks better because now I could proceed by putting n equal to n minus 1 equal to n minus 2 and so on till here. How does it help? Because now if I add all of them, these two terms cancelled. Similarly, this term with the lower left will cancel. This term and this term cancels, minus plus. Similarly, here the left term with the next right term cancels. 1 by n minus 2 will cancel. Till this point, 1 will remain. So it will be 1 minus 1 by n. So finally, if you add all this, you will get this, which is, our life is simple because T41 I know to be as 0. So this is again n minus 1. So see that how before our implementation or deployment of a solution that we thought, how recurrence relations help us. And this is exactly the purpose of divide and conquer recurrence. That I will split and I will combine. But depending on the splitting, how my strategy changes. So this is one example that I have shown that irrespective of any splitting you do, whatever strategy you think of, you will get n minus 1. Number of comparisons to find the maximum among n elements in a set. So we started with an equal division. We have an arbitrary constant depth division. 1, 2 n minus 2, 1 n minus 1, all such. You can also think of an arbitrary fractional division as well. You can start off with an n by 3 and 2n by 3 division, both searching for maximum. So every time you will reach at this point. So it means that this splitting does not impact so much. So let us see another example where it may impact. How do I find max and mean both among n set of elements? Strategy is simple. For n equal to 1, no comparisons, just return that element as max and mean. If n equal to 2, you need to compare once, right? Because larger is the max, lower is the mean. Otherwise, you split again into 2 equal parts. Let us try to understand every possible strategy that we thought of in splitting here also. Split 2 equal parts, find the max and mean from both parts. Finally, you need to have 2 comparisons. The max of first part with the max of second to get the largest. The mean of first part with the mean of second to get the smallest. So therefore, here we go. The number of comparisons taken will be 2 times the number of half equal split comparisons plus 2 because finally we are having 2 comparisons. And if n equal to 2, then we have one comparison to declare, because two elements, one comparison, larger will go as max, lower will go as mean. So this, for large n equal to 2 to the power k, let us try to solve it in the same way. If we expand it, this will be 2 square plus 2 into this plus this. This will be 2 cube, this plus this. This will again go gradually by this formula. Now see why I stopped here, because I have n equal to 2 to the power k and my base condition is 2. So n by 2 to the power k minus 1 is t2, which is 1. So this term plus the series of this is basically 2 to the power k minus 1 if I give a 1 addition. So it is 2 to the power k minus 2 because I take back that 1. So finally this will come 3 by 2 into 2 to the power k minus 2, which is 3 by 2 n minus 2. Where does it help? Because unless if we do the max once and compute the mean once as per the previous strategy wise, I will get n minus 1 comparisons for max and n minus 1 comparisons for mean. However, if we have this kind of a divide and conquer approach, I am saving a little bit of thing, n by 2 times. Because earlier it was 2n minus 2 if you separately do for max and mean. This equal size splits gives me n by 2 times comparison savings. Isn't it? You are getting here, instead of 2n minus 2, you are getting 3 by 2n minus 2. So this helps. So instead of doing it twice, once doing everything with a half split helps. Let us see whether this is the only way it helps, or we could go bad, or we could go better. So again, our next strategy as per earlier one, we do the same thing but split 1 and n minus 1 elements. So 1 and n minus 1 elements, take the max mean from both sets and then compare twice. So this will give me that 1 elements, n minus 1 elements, this many comparison plus 2 times last comparison. Splitting does not involve any comparison. So that's why we do it in this way. Solve it. This is basically 0 because I know that for one element that is the max and that is the mean, so no need of comparing, so it is 0. So it becomes t2n minus 1 plus 2. So t2n minus 2 plus 4, t2n minus 3 plus 6 and so on. Finally it will reach n1 as 2 into n minus 1. What does this mean? This is exactly the number of comparisons we have thought of, provided that we calculate the max and mean in a separate iteration wise. So see, if my splitting or dividing here differs, instead of half I go for one-sided, that is one element and n minus 1, I reach to the exactly same goal of running the same algorithm for max and min twice. So it does not help at all. The next one, what if I go with 2 elements and n minus 2 elements? Because see, there is a reason why I try to do instead of 1 with 2, because 2 element comparison take one comparison to get mean max. But if I always go for the 1 and n minus 2, one element does not take any comparison, but n minus 2 adds up 2 comparisons. So therefore, if I can reach up to 2 elements at a time, then there is one comparison I may save, which results this recurrence. Let us see, this is our intuition. Let us try to prove it by our recurrence, that one sided is t2, another sided is tn minus 2, plus the 2 times the final recomposition step. N equal to 2 is 1, because 2 elements, one comparison, one element, no comparison. Solve it in the same way. Suppose 2m equal to n minus 2 if n is even, and 2m equal to n minus 1 if n is odd. Then how do we solve? We just expand it to the first instance, and finally when we expand it this way, we see that the term is increasing as 3 into the number of steps that we take. So since if it is even, we take m amount of steps, and if it is odd also, we take m amount of steps, but in even we reach at t2 and in odd we reach at t1 plus 3m is the same. Now see here, this is the same if it is even. This is a little bad but better than our 2n minus 2 obviously. So what does this strategy suggest? It suggests that indeed that half and half splitting will give you for n equal to even this answer, or if n is odd you may get another 2 more comparisons. That's not a problem. If n is odd, you just separate out one element and then do for the even and take that one element to compare last. But half and half partition is not the ultimate choice. It is one of the good choices or strategies. Even 2 and n minus 2 elements is also a good choice because it is giving me good answers. Or the similar kind of comparison, number of comparison as answers. So therefore, I can say that why always split half? I can also do 2 aside and n minus 2 aside. This will give me a good result here, at least for this case of finding max mean. This suggests that yes, we can arbitrarily split it in 2 and n minus 2. So I leave it to you to judge whether any arbitrary or constant size split will also result you the similar thing or not. If I say always even number of elements in one side and n minus that number of constant even number of elements in one side will always result in this, or there is only 2 element and this one is the same. Just try to write the recurrence for it and go for solving it as we are analyzing it. So here also you see that gradually we are finding, yes, there is a chance that recurrent might help us to find out the better strategy. We will see more. Let us try to search an element. Unordered set of elements are there, n elements. I want to search an element. You have obviously heard about this problem in a naive way that you go by one. So at least, n comparisons you are definitely need to know if they are unordered. But let us try to have a recursive solution strategy. How do we do that? Let's split in the half. For n equal to 1, I just compare and return yes or no. Otherwise, I split the elements into half, search from both. I return if element found in any of the part. It's same as telling us this, because only one comparison if it is one element. Otherwise, the number of comparison from left and the number of comparison from the right will give me this, because recomposition here does not take any comparisons. It just returns if somebody says yes. So therefore, the number of comparisons here is 2t1 n by 2 and this. So you can easily expand this one and find out what is the answer. It is 2 square t n by 2 square, similarly up to 2 to the power k, t n by 2 to the power k, and I assume big N equal to 2 to the power k. So this terms goes as 1, t1 is 1, so it's n. So you can see that here middle splitting also and recursive thinking of the same problem does not give you any benefit than you linearly scan and all. I will do that this splitting, if you change the split, it's just your linear scan. But let us try to see an arbitrary fractional split. Does it help? Suppose I have 1/3 elements I put in the left side, 2/3 elements on the right side and search for both parts. The same thing I do. Instead of middle, I just do 1/3 and 2/3. So let us see that the reference will be that you search here, these are the number of comparisons, you search 2n by 3, these are the number of comparisons, so the total comparison will add up. And for one elements, you know there is only one comparison. So now you can see that I can prove it by mathematical induction by checking all k less than n values and assuming it ak plus b is my answer. Then you see t3 equal to 1 because you take a and b are constant, you can take a equal to 1 minus b, so t3 equal to 1 satisfies. And tn equal to this same because this is n by 3, it satisfies with k equal to n by 3, it satisfies with k equal to 2n by 3. So you just put it, mathematical induction will give you this hypothesis is correct. So 2 lessons to learn from it, that one is a new technique we solve for recursion instead of just unfolding or doing. It's just called by guess and by proof by mathematical induction. You can also try this technique because this is you guess some solution and you support it by some proof techniques. However, if you try to further analyze it, let us try to bound it or see that what happens. See here, this is t3 n by 3. In the next round of recursive call, it calls t n by 3 square and also t2n by 3 square. This gives t2n by 3 square and also t4n by 3 square. So here, this 4 terms is t3 square 2t2n by 3 square plus this. Again, if you recursive call, you will see it's just like increasing as a recurrence or as a binomial or Pascal triangle types. It adds 2 of these and produces this one and so on. So it's 3c0 ttn by 3 cube and so on. So actually the closed form formula is this. And in the closed form formula, you can see a bound that it is as you can see that this part always dividing by 2n by 3 into 2n by 3 into 2n by 3. So this is the longer branch that you take. If you try to approximate by this branch that every computation is the number of child that can be developed through this branch into all possibilities, so that is the upper bound, and this is the lower number of branch where it will converge to 1, because n by 3 is obviously reducing more than 2n by 3. So then this is a lower bound where you can reach the number of things. So we will show it in the when we formalize such kind of solutions. But the lesson taken here is that this does not change the search complexity. It is an plus b, and in naive case you can take a equal to 1 and b equal to 0. So it is just n. Why don't we split 1 and n minus 1 elements? Yes, that's the obvious choice, because that's how we are trained in linear scan. It's just that we search one and call the same routine for the next set of elements. So this is the linear scan we are talking about, and see the linear scan will produce in a similar vein, because this is 1, so this is t2n minus 1 plus 1, t2n minus 2 plus 2, and so on. So in the similar vein it will go and reach back to n elements. So therefore see that splitting here does not affect very much in terms of searching an element, because it's in terms of n number of comparisons you need to make to search an element also. Finally, for a constant depth split, that is c elements in one side, arbitrary, and n minus c elements in the other side, and then search both, return if found from any of the side. So when you say search both, that is your primary number of comparisons coming from recurrence, so T4C and this one. So you can, I leave it to you to try and say for arbitrary number of C's, which goes this way, that again I will just take an average over C. So it means that this sum is over 1 to n minus 1, any value C can take, I average it out. So this goes here. Put n equal to n minus 1, the same equation delivers this. Subtract first minus second, you get n minus 1 into this equal to this. If you try to solve it, it just gives you T4n. If you put it everything this side, it will be n by this n minus 1 into T4n minus 1. Which means T4n minus 1 is again n minus 1 into n minus 2 by T4 into T4n minus 2. So this n minus 1 and n minus 1 cancel. So it is n by n minus 2 T4n minus 2. So see, every time is n by n minus I T4n minus I. So it is n by 1 into T1, which is n. So as we can see that here, the first example, when we try to find the maximum, the splitting or types of splitting doesn't matter. Our recurrence relation indeed helped us. When we come for search linear, in unordered array search an element, the way you split, divide, conquer doesn't matter, your conquering or dividing procedure. But however, we have seen that when we try to find max and mean, if we divide it either in half for even for 2 to the power k elements, or in very naive sense, if we divide 2 and the rest, every time 2 and the rest, it is better. So therefore, this is a handle to you. This recurrence relation and this informations are handles to you, to first find out and try out your solution mechanism, and then try to figure out which one will be the best position, which one will be the best approach to. The most significant one we will see of these examples is a binary search. Many of you may be hearing this term, that binary search, which means that I have a sorted array of n elements instead of only unordered n elements. It's a sorted, so it's in either ascending or descending order. I give you an element to search from it. Now when I give you an element, what will be the number of comparison maximum you need in an intelligent way to give me the answer? Or rather, how many elements you need to probe here? So I probe, I means that it is not the case that I only compute the comparison. The number of probing means here that I probe some elements. If it is greater, less or equal to 3 answers, I can get by a single probe. So what will be my strategy? One of the strategy is, as we start, as splitting in the middle always. So if it is 1, I just probe and return whether that element is what I want to search. Otherwise, you probe in the middle and return if that is your element, or you split it into 2 parts. Remember, the array is sorted, so middle element and the middle element that you are probing and the element that you have in your hand for searching, if the query element is lesser than the middle, you know if it is sorted in the ascending order, it will always belong to the left part, because your middle element is more or your query element is less than your middle. So therefore query element must lie in the left part of it. So you only search on the left or you only search on the right and return if you find that element from any hand. So this gives our recurrence as that every time I only search one half, I discard the other half depending on the query element probed into the middle element, and the answer it is greater than, equal to, or less than. And this one is to probe the middle element. I want to know the number of probing I am doing. Probing means, as I said, by one probe I can estimate whether it is less, equal to, or greater than. Let us assume that we can estimate by one probe. So it is one probe and any one part how many times it takes. If it is one element, just one probe will suffice. Unfold it for k equal to n by 2 to the power k for high value of n. So this is n by 2 square plus 1 plus 1, n by 2 cube plus 3 ones, that is 3. So n by 2 to the power k plus k, which means it is 1 plus k, because this is 1 as base condition. What is k now? K is log n base 2. So yeah, we can understand that it is 1 plus log n base 2, but we are not still convinced, because as I said, the role of divide and conquer recurrences is to give you an handle. You change the splitting, you change the way you think, and see whether you can do it better or bad. So let us try the other way of splitting. Instead of splitting in the middle, who said that always we have to split in the middle? Let us split 1/3 and 2/3. Do the same thing. We probe in the 1/3 part. If the element that we probe is more than our query element, that means our query element will obviously belong to the left of that 1/3 part. So I just invoke that. Otherwise, it will be on the 2/3 part. And see, the number of probing here, the worst case will be always in the 2/3 part of your searching. Worst case. So you probe in the 1/3 part, no, it's more. So you again go back to the 2/3 part. Again, there you probe in the 1/3 part, no, it's more. So you will. So the way you do the recurrence here is that the worst possibility of probing is you always go in the 2/3 nth part and return by single probe there and return by that number of probes there. Unfold it. I write it here as 3 by 2. So this is n by 3 by 2 square and so on, go till this point. So let assume that for high, very large n, this goes to 1. So see my k now. My k is now log, the base is 3 by 2 instead of 2. Now see that in the earlier slide, I got it 1 plus log n base 2 when I split in the middle. Here I got 1 plus log n base 3 by 2 when I split in the 1/3, 2/3. So you can easily understand, if I split in 1/4, 3/4, it will always be 4 by 3, 6 by 5. If it is 1/5, 4/5, it is 5 by 4, and so on. So if you calculate by pen and paper, pause this video and calculate by pen and paper, which is more, you will obviously find this term is more than log n base 2. So therefore we are doing better than probing in an arbitrary fractional way than in the middle. Let's say we probe at alpha n and 1 minus alpha n splits. So if alpha is more, that is, this, since 2n by 3 is more than half, so that more part we always land up. So this is the more part 1 by alpha n. So see now the beauty now here. So middle split is better in binary search than in fractional split as per the concrete answer, number of probing you are doing. But who said you to do one probe? Let us have a variant. Instead of dividing it into 2 parts and shifting the position of splitting, why not I split it into multiple parts? That is also possible in divide and conquer. So let us split in 3 parts and probe 2 positions arbitrarily in 1/3 and 1/3. So we probe 1/3 position, and then again after 1/3, that is 2/3 position, and break it into 3 parts. How does it help? Because now, depending on my query element value, I know whether it is in left part, I have to search again, or I have to search again in between 1/3 and 2/3 element, or I have to search again on the right side of the 2/3 element. Because array is sorted, that is what our assumption is. Therefore, wherever you probe, you know it is more or less, and it will dictate the next searching will be on the left, in the middle 1/3 part, or in the right 1/3 part. It gives us a little bit of benefit because now I will converge much faster in probing, because 2n by 3 convergence to 1, n by 3 convergence to 1 will be much faster. However, see here, you are increasing one probe every time extra, because 2 times you are doing a probing at 1/3 and 2/3 parts. Let us see what it results. So it will go this way, 3 square plus 4, 3 cube plus 6, so on up to this. This is 2k instead of k. So this is 2 log base 3n. In general, if you have beta equal size splits instead of 3 equal size splits, if I do beta equal size splits, so it is instead of 3 it will be beta, and beta minus 1 is actually due to the number of probes is 3 minus 1. That's why the number of probes comes here. So now you will see that if I increase from 3 to 4, 4 to 5, wherever I go, this term is more than your log n base 2. So therefore my splitting once is best and middle is best. Not tilted, not multiple. That I have solved by my recurrence. See how it helps that I, instead of going into my implementation and running the solution and seeing it, I am here analyzing it by my recurrence relation, that instead of having multiple split, it is better to have single split. Instead of having our fractional shifted tilted split, it is better to have equal size split. Still there, some story remains. How about constant splits? You have not checked that. Let us check that. I will split two unequal parts. Constant minus one element where I probe, and then n minus c in the right part. See, the sorted array and probing a position always gives you the handle to check that if it is more or less, whether to go for the next iteration the left side or the right side. So that is an immense help for us in binary search than in an unordered array linear search. So then my recurrence would be like this. Because assuming that your c is less than n by 2, this part is always more. If c is less than n by 2, so any of the part will always be more. You can also assume c greater than equal to n by 2, then you can go the other way. That is not a problem. But one part will be here. That is the more size part. You can have the same as we have shown for the previous examples, the same average case analysis by all possible values of c, then subtracting 1 less n minus 1 and all that. But let me show you how it evolves. This is basically tn minus c plus 2, and it will go to t4c. Let's say if I have a small constant size chunk, I need exactly the element number of probes to do it. Okay, that is pre-computed. For 3 elements, I have 3 probes to do it. I pre-compute and give it to you. Then this will be, this term is c, and this is where you reach, because n minus c into c will give you c. So this is n minus c. See how it is converging. So it is obviously it is less than that, because you can at most go to 1, but if you reach here somehow, this is a brute forced number of elements, which is obviously how we want to do it. Is the bad possibility that is given to us. It is less than equal to that. So it is this one. Whether if you go to directly to 1, this will be this one. You just can check it and just take some values and see why this calculation is greater than and less than. Now see, there is a caution. It is as bad as linear search if you choose c equal to 1. For c equal to constant, a constant value c, it is upper bounded by some n function of linear n, lower bounded by some function of linear n. That's why it is not logarithmic at all. So it is as bad as linear search. If you can easily put c equal to 1, everything is n. So it is upper bound and lower bounded by n. That means t4n is sandwiched there. So it is n time, n number of probing. So choice of c matters, and also any choice of C does not bring it down to log n if you consider C as constant. So it means the following. Where do we reach? We reach that since log n is for arbitrarily fractional split and for multiple fractional split, it is doing better. So therefore our first middle split is better than single split in unequal parts, double split or multiple split in equal parts, then it is better than that also. Now it is better than even arbitrary splits. Now we will assume the power of recurrence relations to think that why binary search always splits in the middle. I have not implemented. I have just calculated by our own knowledge of recurrence, unfolding, substituting, averaging, and then rest proven it that why binary search is better to split in the middle. So therefore, you see that there are wide range of applications to aid our solving process. And in many of the disciplines, we will see how divide and conquer helps us, not only in the computational paradigm or discipline, but everywhere how this splitting and problem solving help us to solve big problems in different domains. The final example is of sorting, and you know various types of sorting. Let me highlight some of them. One of the recurrence for the problem is that I need to sort an element set in descending order. So if it is 1, I just return. Otherwise, find max and call the same recursion with n-1 because it's my sorting strategy. So I can call with a lesser instance. This is my recursive call. Finally, when the recursive call ends, it will give me sorted n-1 elements. I will just put them one by one. I first put max and the set. So this is a recursive strategy. It is indeed the selection sort if you try to remember. What do? You take the max, put it in the front and take the rest elements to select the next max and then put it the second position. So what you indeed do is that put the max in the front and for the rest you call the same thing again. You can do it recursively also. This is the way. So it is n-1 element sorting, and finally when you compare an element, so this will be n-1 steps you will do to finally find that whether you to get the max you do a n-1 step. Here you see your decomposition takes a find max element, and in the first example I have shown finding max is n-1, so your decomposition takes n-1 steps. Recomposition is just returning. It is not comparing anything, but finding max takes n-1 comparison. So this is your recurrence. This is your decomposition plus 0 is your decomposition. And if it is 1, it is 0. You can easily solve it by expanding. I am not spending much. So it is obviously in the order of half n square minus half n is the answer. Just let us try to improvise your selection sort, which you might not have read but maybe tried in your programming assignments. That why not selecting the max always? I can always select max and mean because I can now use my second strategy, which was better, not always n-1. It was 3 by 2n. So max and mean I will select, put it in both ends, call the recursively in between n-2 elements to sort. I can do that, right? Max and mean, calculate max and mean, compute the rest n-2 sets, sort it. Finally, when you return max followed by that set elements, followed by mean is your answer. So this will take n-2 is the recursive call, and this is to find max and mean, that is the decomposition step. And 1 if it is 2 because you need to have 1 comparisons for 2 elements only to find max and mean and return one after another. Compute, you will find it is better than this because of the fact that where we saved in computing max and mean together. We saved in computing max and mean together because if we compute separately the max and means, then we do 2n-2 steps. However, computing max and mean together is saving us n by 2 and that gives us this savings. So this is less than this. So therefore, sorting, if you do max and min together, is better in terms of number of comparisons at least. So here we split is in 1 or 2 and rest n, 1 n-1 this side, 2 n-2 this side. There are ways that we could split in the middle. What do we do? That we split sets into 2 parts, sort them, combine them. So here a crux is that splitting does not involve any comparison. However, combining that, because two sorted arrays, if you have to combine, then you can recursively do it, because if one sorted array is empty, you can return. Otherwise, you compare the first element. If first element of the first array is bigger than the second element of the first array, remember now my S1, S2 are sorted. So if the first element is bigger than the second element, then I will put first, followed by a recursive call of combine with the rest of the element from the first array and S2. Otherwise, since I am doing it in descending order, otherwise I will combine as B1 followed by all elements in S1 and S minus B1. Two sorted arrays. See, how do you combining two sorted arrays? Both sorted arrays are in descending order. So compare the first. If one is more, then keep it as the first element. Compare the rest from the one with the all from the other. That is the recursive way we can do. Here the recursion is tricky. Now we are getting into a point that we cannot manually always analyze. We need to devise mechanisms for it, right? So here is a point that, see, here what we are doing, either we can have one element less in S1. So J and N minus J, suppose all the elements are N, and we split into J elements and N minus J elements, and we are combining those J element array and N minus J element array. So it is as good as combining. The number of comparison is the comparison in J minus 1 element array with N minus J, that is this part when A1 is greater than B1, or J with N minus J minus 1 array, because one element you have kept in the first position and the rest you are comparing. So whichever will give you the maximum plus 1 is the worst number of comparisons you need, right? This one is because of this one comparison I am doing every time in the combined state. So if you look at it intuitively, you will see that this is nothing but some constant into n number of steps you are taking, and we call it as a merge routine in the merge sort that we just discussed. Now see the recurrence. It splits, let's say it splits into arbitrary, if it is splitting arbitrarily, Ti is the arbitrary part, Tn minus I is the rest part, and this is the combine part, which is your recomposition step. For better thing, we can always see that it can split half and combine them. So I am not going to solve this recurrence, because maybe in the next lecture we will see efficient techniques to solve it and then come back here and solve it, because we have solved enough of such recurrences by unfolding. Let this be solved by a definitive technique that we will learn later. However, the final way we can sort also is that you just choose a pivot element and partition this set depending on whether some elements are more than pivot and less than pivot. So you create a set which is more than pivot, you create another set which is less than pivot. Then you call the same procedure or the sub-problem, you solve it in the same way for set S1 and S2, and then finally append them. What does it mean? It means every time you see you decompose, you're partitioning into left part the bigger elements, right part the smaller elements. Further from the bigger set, left part the further bigger elements and smaller elements. In this way you are growing, and finally when you are reaching the base, everything is sorted, you just combine and move off. Unlike this previous case where your combine step is hungry and giving you this part here in the recurrence, your decomposition step is just splitting and giving you no comparisons. Here you can easily see your partition step or the decomposition phase is the hungriest, whereas your recomposition is just revealing whatever you get, that is no comparison is there. So decomposition or partition, you can see for an S, if you have to just bifurcate it depending on element, you have to scan all elements. It is just a linear array scanning type of or searching type of recurrence it will be, which will result you in n number of scans. So therefore, the final arrays, the number of comparisons in sorting n element set will be arbitrary split plus your decomposition time, which is the partition time, and your half split if we split in the middle. Okay, so your recurrence could be by 3 plus 2n by 3 plus TPN also arbitrary split. Now we need to understand that which is better, as in binary search not all splits are the same. So here also we can do arbitrary shifting of the splits and analyzing the recurrence to understand that where we stand with this. So by the way, these two sorts I mentioned, this one is quick sort and the earlier slide that I mentioned was a merge sort. You will learn in your algorithm that much, but it's nothing but a deviation of the divide and conquer thinking. That how we split, sort and combine, or split in an elegant way, then sort and just directly report that. So depending on that, we can further see how our strategy or our process of sorting elements differ. So we will solve this particular recurrences in the next lecture when we introduce the generalized concept of solving these recurrences. So overall, this is a basic primer to how we use recurrence relations, how there are elegant way of divide and splitting, and the whole lot of divide and conquer paradigm stands over such analysis. In the next lecture, we will see the formalisms in details. Thank you.